Welcome to Studio 33 AD, and with us once again, we had them on our program earlier, but individually. Now it's going to be a team effort, and we wanted to ask our two visiting seminarians, Ian and Carter, to give us a bit more context about the whole path of vocations. And one of the key elements that both of them had touched on when we interviewed them individually, how this whole process revolves around the importance of discernment. Because there might be some other guys who are considering becoming a priest, but there might be among some folks a mistaken idea that it's like all or nothing. If I'm going to go to the seminary, I have to be like 100% sure. And that's just, well, bottom line, that doesn't happen in life. We don't have that kind of certainty. So can each of you speak a little bit about that whole process and how it's working for you, how you've been living it, how you're encouraged to kind of work through the whole discernment process?
Sure.
I can start.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the first step is feeling called in any way to be a priest. And I think everyone who feels that calling is pretty bewildered at first and doesn't know what to think about it. And it's okay to sit with that for a while, but at the end of the day, discernment comes in two parts. It comes from the person discerning if they're called to be a priest, and the church discerning if that man's called to be a priest. So the first thing I'd say, if you've been thinking about it for a while, email Father Nathan Dale. He's the vocations recruiter. It's not his job to make you a priest or make you go to the seminary. He's there to support you and help you understand how you're called. I know more people that have gotten in contact with a vocations recruiter that haven't gone to seminary than have. They're really just there to help you. And back when I was discerning, Father Vogel had that job. And I remember every time I talked to him, it made things a lot clearer. There was someone there to give you feedback, to confirm or deny if the things that are going on in my head actually have any reality to them whatsoever. So, I mean, that's the first thing of discernment. If you feel called in any way, it's good to talk to the vocations recruiter. They're there to help you.
Yeah, and you mentioned feeling the call to the priesthood, and I think it's important to touch on that. That can manifest itself in different ways too. You know, for some people, they've always, since they were a little kid, thought of being a priest. Maybe they played a priest when they were younger, growing up pretending to celebrate mass and whatnot. And then they for some people, it's a very early thing, and it's kind of just maybe less so of like a St. Paul type conversion, where a lightning bolt off the horse or a great light off the horse, but sometimes it's just, you know, young boys are just naturally drawn to it, and they just kind of they just like it, and they have an interest, and then that grows over time. Sometimes they lose that interest, but then they regain it when they're older and say college age. But for others, it is a little bit more like that St. Paul conversion, where it's like something you never thought of, and then getting hit on the head by a 2x4 by God. So yeah, there's you have anything to say about that?
No, I think it comes in all shapes and sizes. It's fun and helpful to hear other people's vocation stories, but what you find is everyone's vocation story is different. So don't ever think that I'm weird, I must not be called to the priesthood. You know, I didn't have the same story as Father so-and-so. We're all called for different reasons, but essentially the same reason. You know, God wants to use us to serve his people.
Well, that's great. One of the points that we got there is that it's a two-way streets of sorts. And you'd mentioned, okay, I've got something in my head, but I have to subject what's in my head to what's going on around me. So it's an opportunity, I guess, for both of you each to kind of discern where you're coming from, but also for our church, in this case, the Diocese of Boise, to see, is this going to be a good fit? So from the perspective of being there at the seminary, the process of discernment, are there like some retreats you're encouraged to attend? Do you have a one-on-one with a spiritual advisor? How's that discernment facilitated?
Well, we have, they say that discernment doesn't really start until you get to seminary, and I can attest to that. So, I've only been in seminary for a semester, but it's definitely true. Each seminarian is assigned a formation director, so someone who's on your external forum, and then also a spiritual director, and both of those are to help you in your discernment, especially usually the spiritual formation, the spiritual director, and it'll manifest itself to the external forum.
What we base what we do off of in the seminary is based on, that's a terrible sentence, but where everything...
You'll save it, though. You're going to save it
I'm
right here.
going to save it.
That's right.
Everything we do comes from the Program for Priestly Formation, the PPF. Mm-hmm. It's a document by the bishops of the United States, and they kind of set forward the guidelines for what they want seminary formation to look like. And the great thing about the PPF is that it doesn't apply just to seminarians. Now, it's directed towards forming guys to be priests, but it's also directed to forming men to be good Catholic men. Mm-hmm. So time in seminary, if you discern out, is never going to be lost time, because if you're docile to the formation staff, you will come out a better person. So there's really nothing to fear in going to seminary, even if you discern out, because it's going to make you a better person. And the church has no animosity towards people that discern out. The church spends money on us being formed, and if you leave, they don't say, "Oh, can we have that money back?" No, they want to help you. The church is your friend in the discernment process. And they are, painstakingly laboring so that you can become a better man and hopefully a better priest.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you would maybe tell some of the other guys, if you think you got that itch, go ahead and scratch it.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's not a 100% commitment just to begin that process.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So that's great. Now, in both your cases, you're from Boise. Mm-hmm. All right, so now you've gone, the diocese has sent you up to Spokane, and now you're back again. Why do you think you're made to have to go away? Why do you think you're made to have to leave home, if only to circle back, and here we are again at the cathedral?
Well, I think it has to do something with learning how to be in the world but not of the world. And I think that's part of it is you have to leave where you're from and be taken out of the place that you're going to serve so that you can be taken out of the world, so that you can learn to come back in the world but not be of it. And I think it's also probably has something to do with how Christ would go off and pray alone and then come back to his disciples. And I think there's a significance of, you have to, time needs to be spent away from the flock, or that you, in this case, that we will one day, God willing, serve, whereas, it was already Christ's flock. And then also, perhaps it has something to do with Christ when he said that, a prophet is no one believes a prophet in his own town, or something to that effect. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on this?
I just want to echo Carter's quote. We went up to seminary together, and we're crossing the state line up in Post Falls, which is way north in Idaho, for those that don't know, and it's like right next to Spokane. So Spokane's like 20 miles from the state line, and we're heading there. And Carter says, we're leaving only so that we can come back, which is really interesting because it seems like we're going away and we're just leaving, but we're not just leaving when the diocese sends us there. We're going there on behalf of the people of the Diocese of Boise and the state of Idaho, which is, I don't know, it's pretty cool, if you ask me.
No, good for both of you. As we've touched on here, at least to take those first steps. We don't know. on the front end. You said discernment doesn't begin until you get to the seminary. But to underscore the importance of, you don't have to have that degree 100% certainty before you begin this process. The diocese and the folks there in the seminary are there to help you help yourself. And we want to wish both of you well as you go forward. It sure would be great. I think we can envision you with the all black, a little bit of white right there. It should be. It would be marvelous to have you back in full black. Okay. Thank you for being here in studio, and we're filming this during Christmas week, so we want to wish you Merry Christmas to you and your families.
Merry
God
Christmas.
bless. Take care.
Merry Christmas.